You've probably seen those epic Western scenes. An elegant stagecoach crossing majestic landscapes, passengers calmly chatting while admiring the view, and when a robbery happens, it's always a cinematic shootout with the hero saving the day. But what if I told you that this romantic image is completely wrong? Today, we're going to reveal the brutal truth about stagecoach travel in the Old West. An experience so miserable that many passengers arrived at their destination more dead than alive. Get ready to discover why a stagecoach journey was more torture than adventure. In movies, stagecoaches are spacious and comfortable, almost like 19th century limousines. In reality, they were claustrophobic coffins on wheels. The famous Concorde stagecoach, considered the Rolls-Royce of its time, was only 1.40 meters wide inside. 9 people were crammed in like sardines, sitting on 3 narrow benches with no proper back support. Imagine this: 3 sweaty strangers pressed against you for days on end. And there's more. Extra passengers rode on the roof, balancing among luggage while the coach rocked violently. As Mark Twain described in his 1861 book Roughing It, it was like a cradle on wheels, but a cradle from hell. The suspension was made of leather straps that made the coach sway like a boat in a storm. The result? Constant nausea, as if you were at sea during a tempest. Many passengers vomited throughout the entire trip, making the environment even more unbearable. The floor was covered with straw that quickly turned into a disgusting mix of mud, tobacco spit, vomit, and other bodily fluids. With no bathrooms, passengers relieved themselves in buckets or simply held it in for hours. Hollywood shows stagecoach trips as short rides of a few hours. The reality? A transcontinental journey lasted 22 uninterrupted days of pure suffering. Stagecoaches traveled 24 hours a day, stopping only 20 minutes every 15 miles to change horses. Sleep? Impossible. Passengers had to sleep sitting up, and it was considered bad manners to rest your head on another passenger's shoulder. Imagine the stiffness in your neck after days like that. The average speed was only 8 km/h, slower than walking. But don't think that made it easy. The coach bounced, shook, and jolted so much that passengers arrived with their bones literally aching. In summer, the interior became a deadly sauna. With poor ventilation, 9 sweating bodies created unbearable heat. In winter, the opposite. A freezer on wheels where passengers shivered under dirty blankets, breathing icy air. Stops at stations were a brief relief that quickly turned into disappointment. 20 minutes to relieve yourself. Try to eat questionable food. And stretch your legs. Barely enough time to recover before returning to the rolling hell. Forget the smooth roads of movies. The roads of the Old West were dirt trails full of holes, rocks, and natural obstacles that turned every mile into a torture session. In spring, with thawing and rain, roads became mud pits. Stagecoaches got stuck up to the axles, and passengers were forced to get out and push through the mud, dirtying clothes they wouldn't be able to wash for weeks. In summer, the problem was dust. Dense clouds of fine dirt entered through every crack, covering passengers in a thick layer of grime that mixed with sweat, creating a filthy paste on the skin. Breathing was a challenge. Many developed persistent coughs that lasted for weeks. Holes and rocks made the coach jump and shake violently. It wasn't uncommon for passengers to hit their heads on the ceiling or be thrown against each other. Broken bones and injuries were common. But the journey didn't stop because of that. Rivers and streams had no bridges. Stagecoaches crossed them through the current. Often water flooded the interior, soaking passengers and luggage. The Concorde stagecoach was famous for floating like a raft, but that meant hours with wet feet, in soaked clothes that wouldn't dry for days. Hollywood loves to show epic robberies, but the real dangers of stagecoach travel were far more varied and deadly. Accidents were the main cause of death. Stagecoaches regularly overturned, especially on steep descents or sharp turns. With 9 people crammed inside, a rollover often resulted in broken bones, head trauma, and death. The horses, exhausted from the brutal journey, sometimes collapsed or bolted out of control. Drunk or inexperienced drivers easily lost control, especially on difficult terrain. One mistake by the driver could mean certain death for everyone on board. Diseases spread quickly in the confined environment. Tuberculosis, cholera, and smallpox ran rampant among passengers. A single sick person at the start of the trip could infect everyone else during the 22 days of confinement. Many arrived sicker than when they left. The famous Butterfield Company signs clearly warned, "You will be traveling through Indian territory, and the safety of your person cannot be guaranteed by anyone but God." It wasn't just propaganda. Attacks really did happen, especially in remote regions of Texas and Arizona. Bandits did exist, but unlike in movies, they didn't engage in honorable duels. They attacked at vulnerable points where the coach naturally slowed down: steep climbs, narrow bridges, sharp turns. The robberies were quick, brutal, and often ended in death. In movies, any cowboy could afford a stagecoach ticket. In reality, it was a luxury few could afford. A transcontinental ticket cost $200, the equivalent of over $6,000 today. To give you an idea, a common worker earned about $1 a day. That means a laborer would need to work nearly 7 months without spending a cent just to pay for the ticket. And that high price didn't guarantee comfort. Quite the opposite. You paid a fortune to be tortured for 22 straight days. Baggage was limited to 18 kilograms per person, and any excess cost extra. Food? Not included. You paid separately for each questionable meal at stations. Stagecoach companies lived on the edge financially. A Concorde coach cost $1,500, about $45,000 today, plus horses, drivers, guards, station maintenance. Many companies went bankrupt quickly, leaving passengers stranded in the middle of nowhere. That's why only the most desperate or wealthy took the risk. Merchants who urgently needed to reach new territories, families fleeing legal trouble, or wealthy adventurers seeking mining opportunities. For most people, it was cheaper and safer to go on foot. Imagine 9 strangers confined together for nearly a month. Without strict rules, it would be total chaos. That's why a whole stagecoach etiquette developed. A code of social survival. Rule number 1: no personal questions. In the Old West, many people were running from their past. Asking, "Where are you from?" or "What's your real name?" could end in a fight or worse. Silence was gold. Rule number 2: rotating corner seats. The corner spots were the most comfortable, allowing you to lean against the sides. Out of courtesy, passengers were supposed to rotate these seats at every stop, though this didn't always work in practice. Rule number 3: control of body odors. With baths impossible for weeks, body odor was inevitable. But relieving yourself inside the coach was the ultimate taboo, even if it meant holding it in for hours. Rule number 4: no complaining. Complaining about discomfort, heat, cold, or the constant shaking was seen as weakness. Everyone was suffering equally, and complaints only made things worse for everyone. Rule number 5. Collective defense. In case of robbery or attack, all male passengers were expected to help defend, regardless of personal differences. Survival depended on cooperation. Breaking these rules could result in complete ostracism, and being ignored for 22 days in such a small space was an additional psychological torture. The truth about stagecoach travel in the Old West is far from Hollywood's romanticized version. It was a brutal experience that pushed the limits of human physical and mental endurance. 22 days of unbearable heat or freezing cold, constant dust, terrible food, lack of hygiene, constant danger, and extreme discomfort. Many passengers arrived traumatized, sick, and swore never to step into a stagecoach again. Others never arrived at all, victims of accidents, disease, or violence along the way. The next time you watch a Western and see an elegant stagecoach crossing the horizon, remember, that wasn't transportation. It was an ordeal that separated the strong from the weak, in a time when surviving a simple journey was already a victory. If you enjoyed discovering the raw truth about Old West stagecoaches, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment. Which of these brutal realities shocked you the most? The 22 days of torture, the absurd price, or the subhuman hygiene conditions? I'll see you in the next video here on the channel. See you soon.